Hey there, welcome to Taubyte's channel. This is a deep dive video on Spore Drive, our SDK for deploying Taubyte clouds with code. You will need an infrastructure to deploy your Taubyte cloud to, and a fully qualified domain name with advanced DNS management capabilities. I provisioned 2 servers for this and my kubernetes.cu domain. We will go through a live example of the finished product, then an explanation of what is happening behind the scenes in the code side of things. Let's visit our online console at console.taubyte.com. It will take us to the main dashboard. On the left side, we have all the features a Taubyte's cloud can offer. Click on Websites. This feature lists all your websites and allow you to create a new one using already made templates. Using the lightning button on the right side, it will run this website for us. This is one of those templates used for this example, but you are free to change the code to whatever suits you. Let us understand how this is deployed. If you visit github.com/taubyte/Spore Drive IDP example, we have an already set up boilerplate repo that uses our SDK to create a Taubyte cloud. Start by cloning it to your machine using git clone. Since Spore Drive is an npm package, our project will contain a Package.json. You can see our SDK listed as a dependency amongst other project-related dependencies. The display script is the script responsible for starting the deploy process to our hosts. There is an example ENV file included that you should copy to create your own. Let's go through it quickly. First key is the SSH key, which points to the PEM file that contains our server's private SSH key. Create it in the root folder and add your private key, then save and exit. Second key is the server's CSV path. It points to the hosts.csv file that should contain our infrastructure information. Create the file in the root folder and add the hostname and public IP of each host you are using. Third key is the username to connect to your servers. Mine is set as Ubuntu, but yours may differ. Let's add our root and generated domain to their respective keys. The last Namecheap section is optional. You can add your domain provider's information or set up the DNS manually. Source folder contains a csv.ts file, which is a helper for extracting hosts from the CSV file we created earlier. It gets the hostname and public IP of each host and returns them as records. It also contains a namecheap.ts file, the Namecheap DNS API client. It allows for different operations on the API, like setting and deleting DNS records. The main code, however, is in the index.ts file using Spore Drive. It all starts with the SDK connecting to the Spore Drive background service using RPC when we run our npm display script. At the top, we have all our imports, including our specific SDK ones like the config and drive objects. Background service uses the config object imported to create and initialize an empty config instance. This config instance can be in memory by default or written to disk at will. It passes it to the createConfig function where all the magic happens. The createConfig function accepts the config instance and starts by setting the root and generated domains to the empty config using ENV Variables we set up earlier. It checks for domain validation and swarm keys and generates them if they don't exist. Following that, it uses the SSH user ENV variable and the private key file to establish an SSH connection to our hosts. It then creates a shape and calls it all. The shape is the number of services used in a single node. In this case, we are using all the available Taubyte cloud services in each node and adding them to the shape, hence the name all. Continues with setting up the main and light ports for the services and attaching them to the shape. It then lists the host from the config we passed to the hosts variable, and since the config is new, the hosts are empty. Then it creates a bootstrapper's empty array. After that, it gets the servers using the getServers function from the csv.ts helper file. It iterates through them and extracts the hostname and public IP of each, if the current host is included in the hosts list, and if not, it adds it to the host and the bootstrappers array. Sets addresses and locations from the current loop iteration server to the added host, checks if the added host includes the all shape, and if not, it generates it. All there is left after the loop goes through all the servers is to add the bootstrappers array as nodes for node discovery, and it commits the changes to the config. After creating the config, the background service creates a drive using the config and a build of Tau. By default, the latest build, but you can change it to your specific one by providing a path. It initializes the drive and plots a new course using the all shape. Finally, it uses the keys and the display script to deploy the Taubyte cloud to your nodes. Whilst doing that, it uses the displays progress function, which creates a progress bar for each host to visualize the operation progress. Optional and not mandatory. After the displacement, if you provided the DNS API information in the ENV variables, it sets up the DNS with an A record for seer hosts that point to all the IP addresses of your nodes separately, an NS record for Tau host that points to the seer dot your root domain, and finally a wildcard CNAME record followed by your generated domain that points to the substrate.tau. Your root domain. If you don't provide any, it skips the operation. All done with the setup. Let's check our dashboard through console.taubyte.com. Enter your email followed by your root domain. If it accepts it, then your DNS is set up properly. The first interface you are going to face is for managing projects. Let's create a new one, providing a name and setting up the visibility. It will take us to the main dashboard, just like we saw at the start of the video. We'll be creating a function using templates for demonstration purposes. You can alter the code or create a new function if you prefer so. To trigger a build, we must push our code to GitHub, and we can check the progress in the build tab on the lower left hand side of the screen. It shows success. Navigate back to your function tab and use the lightning button next to the function to run it. Congratulations, the function is working and we are getting a response back. At this point, you should be able to deploy your own Taubyte cloud using Spore Drive. If you have any questions or suggestions, you may join our Discord using the link in the description or visit our docs at tau.how.